Street raised, I was brought up where the G stayed. Peep game, those who didn't catch one to your brain. Stay in your lane, never wolfed it, boy, I never fake. Watch them break, watch them fall, still I remain. Never change, never try to come and rearrange. Never hate, never tripping on somebody's plate. That shit is lame, leave that type of shit for the dames. The streets don't play, oh catch up, watch your life escapes. One game, homie, that you shouldn't play. There's real soldiers in the streets gunning every day. This shit is normal in the vital part of every day. It ain't great, but I'm loyal, so I'll never change. I keep repeating, but I mean it, never lose your way. Heed the warning and the missing just for talking brave. Fuck my enemies, two faces and all the snakes. Now for this matter, just name the time and name the place. We'll get it active, fuck the gap, and I'm in face to face. Real gangsters never fold, then we never shake. I was brought up to...
You are now watching M.O.D. Entertainment.
What's good, G-Life? This right here is beautiful Killer Cali. California, you already know, home to beautiful weather, sandy beaches, the high life, Hollywood Walk of Fame, all that good stuff. But it is also home to gangbanging capital, home to thousands and thousands of gang members and hundreds of gangs, throughout all over California, from the beginning to the end of it. Sad, but true. And today we'll be covering all street local neighborhoods. So all the neighborhoods that are street locals, that have street local in the titles. So not street neighborhoods that have a locals click, but, that's in the actual title of street local. So with no further ado, let's get into it. All right, and we will be starting off in the San Fernando Valley, my home. You already know we got to start in that 818, bro. Now, to be more exact, and specific, we will be heading towards the area that is known as Van Nuys. Van Nuys is a large area right here in the San Fernando Valley, and it's home to several neighborhoods, dozens of neighborhoods, from Haskell, Valerio, Crooks, Barra Van Nuys, Wicked Players, all that, everybody and their mother. And this is home to one of these street local neighborhoods, which is known as the VSLS. VSLS translating to Vanoan Street Locals. Vanoan Street Locals is a neighborhood that has been well established within this area since the 80s that they were established. Now, I know, people out there, like to think that Barra Van Nuys actually started off Vanoan Street or they broke off of Vanoan Street. This is not to be the case. Vanoan Street actually comes from the Adida Boys. The Adida Boys being a very old school, crew from back in the days. You know what I mean? You had the Adida Boys, and the Adida Boys ended up becoming Vanoan Street. You know what I mean? So they made that transition. Barra Van Nuys was trying to get them to join their neighborhood, but they said chales. They wanted to do their own thing, solo bolo. They told them, hey, well, if you guys don't get in, we're going to have issues, like a lot of neighborhoods like to do. But Vanoan, planted their flag and stood their ground and, held theirs and have continued to hold theirs, since then. Even though there's been constant war between the two neighborhoods, and obviously Barra Van Nuys being the more larger neighborhood, because Vanoan Street Locals, at least from what I was told, is that it's roughly about 100 members to them, but Varrios Van Nuys being in the hundreds, you know what I mean? Being one of the oldest and largest gangs in the San Fernando Valley, you already know, homies, it's no easy task, but Vanoan has continued to, hold down their ground. Now, Vanoan Street Locals, their territory is everything that's from Sherman Way all the way to Orion Avenue all the way to Vanoan Street. And Vanoan Street, the territory still extends all the way to Woodman and back around to Sherman Way. So everything that's in the middle is considered their barrio. You know what I mean? Throughout, obviously Vanoan. And everything that's from Hart and, and all the streets that, are right there. Lenox Avenue, everything that's Bowes, Kester, all of that, close to the elementary as well, you know what I mean, the heart of their hood, their dojo, throughout those alleys, also where they hang out and do their thing, you know what I mean. Like I said, it's a pretty massive territory, and like I said, back in the days, they were a very large gang, you know what I mean. It was very active. Since then, it's not as large as it once was, but don't get it twisted, this neighborhood is still large, and still handling business with several cliques, criminals and the jokers and youngsters and all kinds of cliques. So this neighborhood was doing their thing and continue to still do their thing and represent theirs for the Vanoan Street Locals right there. Now, as we maneuver our way to the city now, heading towards the city of Arleta. Yes, Arleta is home to one of these street local neighborhood, which is known as the NSLS. NSLS is known as the Arleta City North Street Locos. North Street Locos is a brand new neighborhood. Doesn't have that long that was established. It actually used to be a crew that was around in the early 2000s that used to stand for Non-Stop Locos. And then transitioned their way around roughly 2014 and all that, becoming a neighborhood, establishing themselves and taking the name of North Street Locals because North is right there, in their hood on North Street and Woodley, right there by where the KFC's at, the where the KFC, the bank, and all of that's at, throughout those back ends, throughout those back alleys, throughout Nordoff, you know what I mean, is where you're able to find the Nordoff Street Locals. Like I said, it's not a very large neighborhood, it's very small, but nonetheless, real neighborhood. And, one of the few neighborhoods in the city of Arleta, you know what I mean, even though Arleta's kind of a decent sized city, you just have the Arleta boys, but they're roughly not around no more, making and then you have some Pacoima sets and stuff like that, but making North Street Locals and SLS the main fraction right there in Arleta, you know what I mean. And from what I was told, at least, is this neighborhood is roughly about 65 members to them. Like I said, because they haven't been around that long, they're not as old school. But nonetheless, a real neighborhood that was doing real things and continue to still do real things. I have bumped into these individuals and seen them posted and all that. So they the real deal, Holyfield. Despite what individuals want to say, like I said, you can hate it or love it. Doesn't change the facts. Facts are facts. It is what it is. Yeah, but the North Street Locals is another neighborhood right here, well established in the 818, representing for theirs and the North Street Locals. Another barrio that we have right here in the 818, that's a street local neighborhood. Now, for this one, we actually have to be maneuvering our way to the area of Pacoima. Obviously, Pacoima being one of the more larger and well-recognized areas within the San Fernando Valley. It is home to dozens and dozens of neighborhoods. One of the more, chaotic areas in the San Fernando Valley. It definitely cracks in, Pacoima. That's without a doubt. And this is home to actually, a few of these street local neighborhoods. And for the first one, right here in Pacoima, we have the CSL. CSL translating to Pacoima Cayuga Street Locals. Pacoima Cayuga Street Locals is a neighborhood that has been well established right here. And like I've said, all Pacoima neighborhoods are individual neighborhoods, even though they all claim the same city of Pacoima. They're their own individual gangs, kind of like Linwood and Compton and barrios like that do it. You know what I mean? Where they just represent the city, but they're their own individual gangs. Even though some of these neighborhoods tend to be clicked up with each other, they're still their own individual subsets. Now, the Cayuga Street Locals neighborhood is everything that's from San Fernando Road, everything to Van Nuys Boulevard, all the way to Loren Canyon, all the way to Terra Bella and back around. So everything throughout that area is considered their barrio. So that would be everything that's throughout Pierce Street, that slices throughout their hood, which would be like Pierce and like LX, Pierce and Telfer, Pierce and Kewin and Pierce and all of that, Haddon, all of that. But the heart of their hood, their main domain, their dojo, where they originated from and started at, was on Pierce and Cayuga Street. Obviously, Cayuga being the heart of their hood, their dojo, their domain was what their neighborhood was named after. You know what I mean? Throughout, Cayuga and Pierce, all the way to Terra Bella. That's the heart of their hood. You know what I mean? That's their main domain. And this is one of Pacoima's more smaller clicas, at least from what I was told. This neighborhood was roughly only about 50 to 55 members to them. So one of the more smaller sets, from this area. And they are clicked up with the Latin Times and Knock Knock Boys. That's why you see them right together and why you see them hang out together and stuff like that. So they are clicked up, but like I said, they're their own individual gangs nonetheless, but they have a good relationship with each other because even though they're cool with some sets, Pacoima neighborhoods do end up beefing it with other sets, that's just how it goes right here, and no different with Cayuga Street. But that's what's up with the Cayuga Streeters right here representing for theirs. Another neighborhood that you have within the city of Pacoima, also one of these street local neighborhoods. Now this one being a little bit more of a recognizable set, still, it's another set that was established here in the city of Pacoima roughly around the 70s, 80s when this clica was established of theirs. And from what I was told is this clica was roughly about 70 to 60 to 70 members to them. At one point they were a large, clique that, people heard about. As of time, they're not as large as they once were, but still, nonetheless, can't take nothing away from them. Is the PSL. PSL translating to Paxton Street Locos, or PSLS, Paxton Street Locos. Paxton Street Locos, their territory is everything that's from San Fernando Road, all the way to Paxton, obviously what their neighborhood is named after, to Lauren Canyon, and to Van Nuys Boulevard and back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio, but obviously their heart of the hood is obviously throughout Paxton Street. So that's Paxton and Haddon, Paxton and Amboy, Paxton and Kewen, Paxton and El Dorado, all of that. It's what's considered their barrio. But obviously, more recognizable territory of theirs where they hang out, where they do their thing and everything like that is at the Richie Valens Park. Everybody knows the famous Richie Valens Park, named after Richie Valens because he was from this area. So they named the park after him. So, it's where you're able to find them, more at the Richie Valens Park than the actual Paxton Park. You would think, you'll find them at the Paxton Park, but actually more at the Richie Valens Park. That's just how it is because, you can find the Crazy Boys more in the Paxton Park than theirs. And this set is clicked up with the Brownstone Locos. So the Brownstone Locos and the Paxton Streeters have always had a good relationship. You know what I mean? Considering that their neighborhoods are just right there, they, have always had a good bond with each other. So they are clicked up, but like I said, they're their own individual sub gangs, but they are clicked up, because they always had that good relationship with each other, and it's right next to the Cayuga Street neighborhood, they're right there back and back. So yeah, they are clicked up, but they're their own individual neighborhoods, like I have said. And the Paxton Street Locals still continue to be right here, representing for theirs. You know what I mean? I know that they have a few artists, from this neighborhood, and they continue to still represent theirs and putting theirs on the map. Now, to find the next neighborhood on the list, we actually have to be now maneuvering our way to East LA, the East Side, to be exact. You know what I mean? More of the east side of Los Angeles, to the area that is known as Boyle Heights. Boyle Heights, obviously infamous, for gangbanging capital, home to very old barrios like Maravilla, Wyfins, Primera, and etc. It is also home to the very famous, the housing project, the Pico Aliso housing projects, that was home to dozens of neighborhoods, you know what I mean? From, East LA Dukes to Primera Flats to the Mob Crew, Cuatro Flats, several neighborhoods. And one of them being a street local neighborhood that often people forget about this neighborhood, but it is a real neighborhood and it's still well established, you know what I mean? Because this neighborhood is roughly a few hundred members to them. Yes, they're that large because they're not just located here in the east side, but they're located in different areas like Washington, Oregon, and etc. So this is not the only place where you're able to find this barrio, but in several other locations, which is the barrio CSL. CSL translating to Barrio Clarence Street Locos. Barrio Clarence Street Locos is a well-established neighborhood that has already been right here since the 70s. Like I said, it was one of the neighborhoods that was right here in the housing projects, before they were knocked down on Clarence Street. So you weren't just able to find them there, but throughout the back streets, it was their barrio. You know what I mean? Obviously having to share right there with the Mob Crew and everybody else, it just makes recruitment a lot more difficult. But these guys still managed to, have heads, you know what I mean? They still managed to get, a large number to them. Even since back then they were large, but like I said, they're not as old school or as well known like, Cuatro or Primera that have already been right here, established way longer than them. But don't get it twisted, homie. These guys have their riders and put it down, you know what I mean? I got homies out of this neighborhood, But the Clarence Street Locos is a real barrio that continues to handle their business and continue to still put theirs on the map and hold it down for that CSL. Now, to find the next neighborhood on the list, we actually still have to remain here in the east side, but now heading towards, a little bit more, heading towards East LA almost, which is the area where we're able to find the next Street Locos neighborhood, which is another old school barrio that has been well established within this area since the 70s as well. So these guys already have, history within this area. It's one of the more recognizable neighborhoods when we're talking about Street Locals. which is known as the Barrio SSL. SSL, not to be confused with Southside Locos, translates to Barrio State Street Locos. Barrio State Street Locos is a real neighborhood that has already been well established right here within the area of Boyle Heights, in the danger zone. When I mean the danger zone, I mean because, you know, of all the neighborhoods that surround it, you know, there's no breathing room within this area. That's why I put that, you know, this pig right here on the map to show, you know, that there's no breathing room, like literally. And often people think that it's you know, oh, is it Soto Street? No, it's not Soto Street. It's State Street Local. Soto Street is just SST is SSL. Now, their barrio is everything that's from, obviously, what they're named after, State Street. But State Street, their territory still extends all the way to where the freeway's at. From there to City View Avenue. City View Avenue, their territory still extends all the way to Soto Street. Soto Street to Cesar Chavez and back around. So that's State and Soto, in between State and Soto, and in between where the freeway's at and Cesar Chavez, everything that's in the middle is their barrio. So throughout Cummings Street, throughout St. Louis Street, throughout Bailey's, throughout Shredderton, throughout City View Avenue, throughout all of that is considered their barrio. You know what I mean? You know, pretty extensive, you know, amount of territory. You know, from Comwell to Breed Street, all of that is considered the State Street Locals territory. You know, and like I said, in the means of the danger zone, because you got Cam right there, you got Tiny Boys right there, you got East LA Dude, and these neighborhoods, you know, all beefy. You know, they don't get along with each other. Like I said, when you get that many egos in one location, you're gonna get, you know, chaos. And sure enough, that's what, you know, transpired right here with the State Street Locals. But yet they still planted their flag, still represent right there. From what I was told, there are a few hundred members to them, and continue to put theirs on the map. Now, to find the next neighborhood on the list, we actually have to still be right here in the east side, but this time maneuvering our way to a different part of the east side. You know, far into the east side. We're able to find the next barrio. To be more exact, we have to be making our way to the area of Montebello. Yes, Montebello is still considered the east side, for those who don't know. Montebello is another area that is home to several barrios, like the 213 Rifa, to the Southside Montebellos, to the AFH, to several different neighborhoods, you know, within the area of Montebello. And this is home to one of these street local neighborhood, which is known as the VSLs. VSL, not to be confused with Vanoan. This is known as the Barrio Vale Street Locos. Vale Street Locos is a well-established neighborhood that has already been right here since the 70s as well, that they have been established right here in the area of Montebello that they call home. One of the more recognizable barrios, when people think about the, you know, area of Montebello, they think of normally of Vale Street, or they think of, you know, Southside Montebello as the two neighborhoods that always come to mind. You know, real neighborhoods that have been well established right here within this area. And like I said, this is a neighborhood that's roughly a few hundred members to them. So they do have heads. You know, these guys ain't no joke. As a matter of fact, they even have some music that you can check out right here on YouTube. You know what I mean? You know, they have a few rappers. I think they have up to 3 vatos. I forgot their names already, but they have rolas right here on YouTube, so you guys can scope them out with videos and everything. But yeah, the Barrio Vale Street Locals is everything that's from Medford Street all the way to 22nd Street to Whittier Boulevard, and from Whittier Boulevard, the territory still extends all the way to Taylor Avenue. So that's throughout Park Avenue, that's throughout Maple, that's throughout California. Obviously, Vale is the heart of their hood, and you know, 18th and all of that. You know, it's what's considered their barrio. But on Olympic and Vale is the heart of the hood. That's the heart of the hood. Their dojo, their domain, that's where they get it on and cracking. You know what I mean? And like I said, they're well established and continue to still represent theirs and put theirs on the map because they're still right there, notorious, and still holding it down for the east side and putting theirs on the map. Another neighborhood that we have on the list, but for this one, we actually have to head on over to the west side, you know, close to, you know, the Hollywood area, is home to one of these street local neighborhoods that people often forget, you know what I mean? Hardly anybody ever mentions this neighborhood, but it is a well-established neighborhood within this area and has been established here since the early 80s, which is the Barrio STLS or Barrio VLS, which stands for Barrio Virginia Street Locals. Yes, Barrio Virginia Street Locos. It is a real neighborhood in the West Side Virginia Street Locos was a well-established small neighborhood within this area. You know, small because I was, at least from what I was told, this neighborhood was roughly only about 50 to 60 members at its max. Since then, you know, a bunch of different neighborhoods, you know, around in the area makes recruitment a lot more difficult. You know, because there is so many different gangs right here. You know what I mean? These guys start off as a football team that transitioned into neighborhood. And they were right here in the West Side. You know, we'll continue to still be in the West Side, but you know, a lot more smaller than what they used to be, and that's just because of so many different gangs that popped in the area. And Virginia Street was their main domain, what they're named after. They used to hang out in those apartment plexes. You know what I mean? Since then, now they're a lot more smaller, but still, nonetheless, have writers that hold it down for their barrio and still represent for theirs. You know what I mean? These guys ain't no chumps. And they continue to handle it. And yes, this is a real barrio. You know, I hear individuals try to say that, nah, it's not a real barrio. Nah, this is a real neighborhood right here on Virginia Street. Don't ever get it twisted. You know, I know you have the Belvin Dukes, you have the Silver Lakes, La Mirada, you know, the Magician. You have so many different barrios, you know what I mean? But yes, Virginia Street Locos is a real neighborhood and continue to still be established and putting theirs on the map.